Welcome to the world of science function. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. Daxee's 3 spindly fingers quivered as she clutched the crumpled rejection notice, her antennae drooping with the weight of humiliation. She had just returned to her ship after her 20th, and perhaps most humiliating, marriage proposal rejection. The luminous cityscape of Alpha Tarion Prime sparkled mockingly through her ship's viewport. Daxee, a small blue alien with a faint luminescence and an unfortunate tendency to stammer under pressure, had traversed the galaxy in search of a compatible mate. Her species' rigid expectations made the task Herculean. Yet, rejection after rejection had only solidified her reputation as the most undesirable suitor in her quadrant. Too small, they said, she muttered, her voice tinged with bitterness. Too shy, too strange-looking. Bah! Her ship's AI companion, Orbix, hovered nearby, its single lens glowing softly. Your attempts are statistically improbable to succeed, Orbix intoned flatly. Its cold logic was unhelpful at the best of times. Maybe recalibrating your standards. Oh, shut up. Daxee snapped, her cheeks flushing a deeper shade of azure. She shoved the rejection letter into a compartment and flopped into the pilot's chair. Her latest failure wasn't just a blow to her pride, it was a reminder of her species' relentless pressure to reproduce. If she couldn't find a mate soon, the council would assign her a partner from the matchmaking pools, a prospect more mortifying than rejection itself. Orbix's lens flickered in contemplation. Perhaps, it began slowly, you might consider less conventional options. What do you mean? Daxee asked, her frustration bubbling beneath the surface. The AI displayed an image of Earth, a pale blue dot suspended in the inky void. Humans are famously adaptable, Orbix suggested. Given their eclectic mating behaviors, one of them might find you intriguing. Daxee squinted at the planet. Humans were primitive compared to most species in the galaxy, but they were undeniably versatile. Could a human truly find her appealing? The idea seemed ludicrous, yet tantalizing. Desperation trumped logic. Set a course, Daxee declared. Let's see if Earth is ready for me. Hours later, her ship hovered over a quaint suburban neighborhood on Earth. The night sky was clear, and crickets chirped rhythmically. Daxee's bioluminescent skin glowed faintly in the darkness as she nervously adjusted the translator clip to her ear. She landed the ship discreetly in a wooded area nearby, her heart pounding as she approached a modest 2-story house. Light shone warmly through the windows, revealing a cozy living room filled with books, plants, and a peculiar human lounging on a couch. Her translator crackled as it calibrated to the language. Daxee rehearsed her introduction. Greetings, Earthling. My name is Daxee, and I seek companionship. No, too formal. Hey there. Looking for a date? Too casual. She groaned, pacing back and forth. Inside, 32-year-old Jake Harrington munched on popcorn, utterly engrossed in a cheesy sci-fi movie. His recent breakup had left him skeptical of love, but tonight, as he watched intrepid heroes forge unlikely bonds across the stars, a sliver of optimism returned. Maybe I should put myself out there again, he mused aloud. Daxee chose that moment to knock. The door creaked open, and Jake froze mid-chew as he took in the sight of the glowing blue alien standing on his porch. Her wide, hopeful eyes and nervous smile contrasted starkly with her otherworldly appearance. Ah, hi, he stammered, unsure whether to scream, run, or pinch himself. Daxee straightened her posture and extended a trembling hand. Greetings. My name is Daxee. I seek companionship. She winced at her own awkward delivery. Jake blinked. Companionship? He leaned slightly out the doorway, scanning for hidden cameras or a sci-fi convention he might have forgotten. This isn't a prank, right? It's no prank, Daxee assured him. Her glow intensified as her nerves surged. I've traveled across galaxies to find a compatible partner. And you, human, might be it. Jake's popcorn fell to the floor. As the evening wore on, Jake invited Daxee in, equal parts curious and disbelieving. Over cups of tea, he made her try chamomile, which she found appallingly bitter. They exchanged stories. Jake shared his frustrations with dating, recounting tales of disastrous Tinder matches and a string of incompatible relationships. Daxee countered with her own tales of intergalactic rejection, a royal prince who laughed at her accent, a scholar who criticized her antenna symmetry, and a warrior who claimed her bioluminescence was too distracting. Their shared misfortune fostered an unlikely camaraderie. For the first time, Jake felt seen in a way no human had made him feel. And for Daxee, Jake's genuine laughter at her stories felt like the warmth of a distant sun. "You know," Jake said, leaning back in his chair, "if you're looking for someone who appreciates you for who you are, maybe you've come to the right planet." Daxee's antennae perked up. "Really? You don't think I'm strange?" "Oh, you're definitely strange," Jake teased, grinning. "But in a good way." For the first time in a long while, Daxee felt hope flutter within her chest. Perhaps Earth wasn't so primitive after all. The stakes were set, but the journey ahead promised more challenges than either of them could foresee. The morning sun bathed the quiet suburban street in warm light, highlighting the odd couple standing on the sidewalk. Daxee adjusted her scarf, a makeshift disguise for her bioluminescent skin, and peered nervously around. Jake, her reluctant guide to Earth, stood beside her, holding a reusable grocery bag. His nerves were thinly veiled by a forced smile. "So," Jake began, trying to sound casual, "if you're gonna live here, you need to learn how to blend in. Step 1, act normal." "Normal," Daxee repeated, rolling the unfamiliar word on her tongue. She glanced at a passing dog walker. The human was chatting cheerfully with their dog. Mimicking their tone, Daxee turned to Jake and said, "Hello, creature. I admire your fur." Jake facepalmed. "Okay, not like that." Daxee fidgeted with her scarf, embarrassed. "How does one learn normal if one has never experienced it?" "Well," Jake said, starting down the street, "first, you gotta stop glowing when you're nervous. That's a dead giveaway." "I can't help it," Daxee muttered. "It's physiological. Like you're sweating." "I don't sweat when I'm nervous." Jake protested, though his damp palms betrayed him. He steered them toward the local grocery store. "Let's just get through this without you accidentally exposing yourself, all right?" The store was bustling with activity, far too much for Daxee's liking. Her antennae twitched at the cacophony of human chatter, cash register beeps, and the occasional wail of a child. She clung to Jake like a lost hatchling, her wide eyes darting to every strange object. "Is this a weapon?" she whispered, pointing at a baseball bat on display. "No," Jake replied, "it's for sports." Daxee nodded, filing away this bizarre tidbit. The next aisle brought a different challenge, the produce section. She picked up a pineapple and sniffed it cautiously. "Does this creature bite?" Jake nearly choked on his laughter. "No, it's a fruit. You eat it." Daxee squinted at the spiky exterior. "You humans are braver than I thought." As they navigated the aisles, the awkwardness began to fade. Jake found himself amused by Daxee's genuine curiosity. She marveled at the variety of potato chips, so many flavors for one vegetable, and became enamored with the bakery section, where she nearly bought a dozen donuts until Jake reminded her they didn't have infinite money. They were almost done when disaster struck. "Excuse me, miss," a store employee said, approaching Daxee. She froze, her antennae stiffening beneath the scarf. The employee, a young man with a name tag that read Kyle, gave her a polite smile. "I couldn't help but notice, your scarf is, glowing." Jake's heart sank. He stepped between them quickly, laughing nervously. "Oh, that. Yeah, it's this new LED fashion trend from Europe. Super cutting edge, right, Daxee?" "Why yes," she stammered, her glow intensifying. "It is, extremely cutting edge." Kyle tilted his head, skeptical. "Really? Never seen anything like it. What's it called?" Ah, looming glow fabric, Jake improvised. Very exclusive. You probably wouldn't have heard of it. Daxee nodded emphatically. Yes, very exclusive. Only available to, she paused, struggling to find the word. Aliens. Jake groaned inwardly. Kyle's expression shifted to one of confusion. Before he could ask any more questions, Jake grabbed Daxee's hand. Anyway, we've got to run. Thanks for the help. He hurried toward the self-checkout, whispering, "You're killing me here, Daxee." I panicked, she whispered back. I'm not used to lying. Well, get used to it, Jake muttered. If anyone finds out you're not human, it's game over. The walk back to Jake's house was tense. Daxee fiddled with her scarf, clearly upset. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I'm not very good at this. Jake sighed, softening. It's okay. I mean, you're doing pretty well for someone who's never even seen a human before yesterday. Just try not to attract attention, all right? Daxee nodded, her glow dimming to a faint shimmer. They walked in silence for a while until she said, "Do you really think I can fit in here?" Jake hesitated. Part of him wanted to reassure her, but another part knew the truth. She was too different, too alien. Even if they could keep her secret, how long could she pretend to be someone she wasn't? You don't have to fit in, he said finally. You just have to, be careful. Daxee smiled faintly. Thank you, Jake. That evening, back at the house, Daxee sat cross-legged on the living room floor, sorting through the groceries. Orbix, who had stayed behind to avoid detection, hovered nearby, its lens flashing with mild disapproval. Your cover story was unconvincing, Orbix said bluntly. The probability of exposure has increased by 17%. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Jake replied, rolling his eyes. We're doing the best we can. Daxee ignored their bickering, her attention fixed on the pineapple. She had finally worked up the courage to taste it, nibbling cautiously at a chunk Jake had cut for her. Her face lit up, literally. It's delicious, she exclaimed, her glow brightening. Sweet, tangy, and spiky. Is all human food this wonderful? Jake laughed. Not all of it. But I guess you've found your new favorite. Daxee's antennae wiggled with delight. For the first time since arriving on Earth, she felt a sense of belonging, not with the humans outside, but here, in this cozy house, with Jake and his inexplicably endearing snark. But as they laughed and shared pineapple slices, neither of them noticed a shadowy figure watching from the trees outside, a figure with sharp features, glowing red eyes, and a menacing grin. The stakes had just escalated. Unbeknownst to them, Daxee wasn't the only alien on Earth, and this new arrival wasn't here to make friends. The sharp, acrid scent of burning rubber filled the air as the shadowy figure approached Jake's house under the cover of darkness. Its red eyes glinted menacingly in the moonlight, a stark contrast to its polished silver exoskeleton. From its shoulder-mounted emitter, a faint whirring sound emanated, signaling it was armed and ready. Daxee, unaware of the looming danger, was in the kitchen experimenting with making pineapple-flavored tea. Jake sat on the couch, flipping through TV channels. What are you doing in there? He called. Trying to understand why humans boil leaves, Daxee replied, her voice laced with curiosity. Because we like suffering, Jake quipped, grinning. Pineapple tea, though? Bold move. I am a bold alien, Daxee said proudly, though her antennae twitched nervously. Well, I'm trying to be. Before Jake could respond, Orbix, who had been stationed by the window, emitted a sharp beep. Hostile life form detected. Jake froze. What do you mean hostile? Orbix's lens spun toward the window. I mean there is an alien assassin approaching your residence with intent to neutralize all life forms inside. Jake bolted upright. You couldn't have mentioned this sooner? Daxee ran into the living room, her luminescence flickering erratically. An assassin? For me? Orbix emitted a tone that could only be interpreted as smug. Who else would it be for? I am, after all, a state-of-the-art artificial intelligence. Jake grabbed a baseball bat from beside the couch, gripping it tightly. What do we do? Do we run? No, Daxee said firmly, surprising both Jake and herself. I've been running my entire life. If this thing wants me, it'll have to go through me first. Wow, Jake muttered, that's either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I'm hoping it's brave, Daxee replied, her glow intensifying. The first blow came swiftly. A blast of searing energy ripped through the front door, leaving a smoldering hole. The assassin stepped into the house, its metallic frame humming with power. Target identified, Daxee of the Kelvian Alliance, it announced in a robotic monotone. Prepare for termination. Daxee gulped. That's not very friendly. Jake swung the bat wildly, aiming for the assassin's head. The metallic creature caught the bat mid-swing with a mechanical hand and crushed it effortlessly. Jake stared at the splinters in disbelief. Well, that's not good. The assassin raised its emitter, a red glow building at the nozzle. Daxee's instincts kicked in, and she tackled Jake to the floor just as a beam of energy sliced through the space where he had been standing. The wall behind them disintegrated in a shower of sparks. Orbix! Daxee shouted. Can you disable it? I am an artificial intelligence, not a miracle worker, Orbix replied. However, I can suggest tactics for survival. Great, Jake said, crawling toward the kitchen. Let's hear it. Run, Orbix said flatly. Ignoring Orbix's advice, Daxee dove behind the couch and grabbed the nearest blunt object, a decorative lamp. She hurled it at the assassin with all her strength. It bounced harmlessly off the metallic frame, but the distraction gave Jake enough time to grab a kitchen knife. He darted forward, aiming for the exposed wires at the back of the creature's neck. The assassin twisted at the last second, grabbing Jake by the wrist and hoisting him into the air. Resistance is futile, it said. Yeah, I've heard that one before, Jake grunted, struggling against its grip. Daxee's panic gave way to anger. She didn't travel across galaxies and endure countless rejections just to meet her end in a random Earth living room. Her bioluminescence flared brightly, filling the room with dazzling light. The assassin faltered, its sensors overloaded by the sudden brightness. It dropped Jake, who hit the floor with a thud. Orbix! Daxee called. Now would be a good time to do something useful. Orbix beeped indignantly. Fine. Initiating disruption protocol. The AI emitted a piercing frequency that caused the assassin to twitch violently, its joints sparking as it struggled to regain control. Run! Jake yelled, grabbing Daxee's hand and pulling her toward the back door. They bolted into the woods behind the house, the cold night air stinging their lungs. The assassin's heavy footsteps echoed behind them, its monotone voice growing louder. Target will not escape. We can't outrun it forever. Jake panted. What's the plan? Daxee's mind raced. Her species wasn't known for their physical strength, but they excelled at resourcefulness. She spotted a fallen tree up ahead and suddenly had an idea. Follow me. She led Jake to the tree, quickly explaining her plan. As the assassin closed in, Jake crouched behind the log, holding a long branch in position. Daxee stood a few feet away, glowing brightly to attract the assassin's attention. The assassin slowed, its red eyes locking onto her. Prepare for termination. Daxee taunted it, taking a step back. You keep saying that, but you haven't done a great job so far. The assassin lunged toward her, but as it stepped over the fallen tree, Jake sprang into action. Using all his strength, he jammed the branch into the assassin's exposed wiring, causing a shower of sparks. The assassin staggered, its systems glitching. Daxee seized the opportunity. Her bioluminescence intensified again, blinding the creature. It stumbled backward, tripping over the log and landing in a heap of malfunctioning metal. Jake stared at the smoking remains, breathing heavily. Did we just win? For now, Daxee said, her glow dimming as exhaustion set in. But this won't be the last time. Back at the house, Jake patched up the broken door as best he could while Daxee examined the remains of the assassin. "Who sent it?" Jake asked, handing her a cup of tea. "I don't know," Daxee admitted, her voice heavy with worry. "But whoever it was doesn't want me here." Jake set the tea down and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Well, too bad for them. Because you're not going anywhere." Daxee's antennae twitched with gratitude. Despite the danger, she felt safer here than she ever had on her home planet. Together, they stared out at the dark woods, knowing that more challenges and enemies awaited. Unseen in the distance, a cloaked figure watched through a high-tech scope, its lips curling into a sinister smile. "The game has only just begun," it murmured before disappearing into the night. The climactic confrontation had left them shaken, but their bond had grown stronger. Now, they faced the ultimate question: how long could they stay one step ahead of their pursuers? The quiet hum of the forest at dawn was interrupted by a faint beep from Orbix. The AI hovered between Daxee and Jake, its lens swiveling toward them with urgency. "Motion detected," it announced. "Approximately 500 meters west. Likely another hostile." Jake groaned, setting down his wrench. He had been working tirelessly to fortify the house after last night's attack. "We just got through the first one," he muttered. "Now there's more?" Daxee's glow flickered faintly as she paced nervously. "This is my fault," she said, wringing her hands. "I've brought danger to you, to this planet. I should leave before." "Nope," Jake interrupted, stepping in front of her. "We've been over this. You're not going anywhere. If they want you, they'll have to deal with me first." Daxee blinked, her antennae perking up slightly. "You'd really fight for me? Even after all this?" Jake grinned. "I've faced worse odds. Like asking my high school crush to prom." Spoiler alert, she said no. Despite herself, Daxee laughed, a soft, melodic sound that briefly broke the tension. Orbix beeped impatiently. "If you two are done with emotional bonding, we have imminent threats to address." The plan came together quickly. Orbix scanned the surrounding area, identifying weak points in the attacker's approach. Jake prepared makeshift traps using what little he had, a roll of duct tape, a broken lawnmower, and several cans of WD-40. Daxee, though hesitant at first, found her own role in the plan. Using her bioluminescence, she would act as bait to lure the enemies into the traps. "You sure about this?" Jake asked as Daxee adjusted her scarf. "We can figure out another way." "I have to do this," she said firmly. "I'm tired of running, Jake. It's time I stood up for myself." He nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder. "All right, let's do this." As the sun climbed higher, the attackers made their move. 3 more assassins emerged from the trees, their silver exoskeletons gleaming ominously. Unlike the first, these were sleeker, faster, and coordinated. They spread out, scanning the area with glowing red eyes. Daxee stood in the clearing, glowing brightly to draw their attention. Her heart pounded as they zeroed in on her. "Target identified," one announced. "Commencing capture." "Come and get me," she taunted, sprinting toward the house. The assassins gave chase, their movements eerily precise. Behind her, Jake crouched in the bushes, gripping the trigger for their first trap. As Daxee passed the first tripwire, Jake pulled the trigger. A net made of steel wire shot out from the trees, ensnaring one of the assassins. It struggled against the bindings, its metallic limbs thrashing, but the wires held firm. "One down," Jake muttered. 2 to go. The second assassin was faster, closing the distance between itself and Daxee in seconds. It lunged at her, but she slid under a low branch, its sharp edges scratching harmlessly against her scarf. The maneuver bought her enough time to lead it into the next trap, a pool of motor oil Jake had poured into a shallow ditch. The assassin skidded uncontrollably, crashing into a pile of logs Jake had stacked nearby. Daxee's glow brightened in triumph, but it was short-lived. The third assassin moved with terrifying speed, avoiding every obstacle she threw in its path. "Jake," she shouted, panic creeping into her voice. "I see it," he yelled, dashing toward the house. "Plan B." Daxee turned and bolted after him, the assassin hot on her heels. As they reached the porch, Jake grabbed the lawnmower. He yanked the cord, and the old machine sputtered to life, spewing smoke and sparks. "Get down!" Jake yelled. Daxee dove to the ground as Jake shoved the lawnmower toward the assassin. The machine collided with the attacker, its spinning blades catching on exposed wiring. Sparks flew as the assassin's systems overloaded, and it collapsed in a heap of twitching metal. When the dust settled, Daxee and Jake stood side by side, surveying the aftermath. Orbix floated over the disabled assassins, scanning them with its lens. "No active threats detected," it announced. "For now." Jake wiped his brow, letting out a shaky laugh. "Well, that was fun." Daxee looked at him incredulously. "Fun? That was terrifying." "Hey, we survived," he said, nudging her playfully. "That's a win in my book." But Daxee's expression remained troubled. "These won't be the last," she said quietly. "Whoever sent them won't stop until they capture me, or worse." Jake's grin faded. "Then we make sure they don't succeed. We'll fight them off, together." Her antennae drooped. "You don't have to do this, Jake. I've already caused you so much trouble." "Daxee," he said firmly, "I'm in this. You're not alone anymore." Her glow brightened faintly, a sign of her gratitude. For the first time, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she had found a place where she belonged. Far away, in a hidden facility, a shadowy figure watched the events unfold through a monitor. Its red eyes gleamed with cold malice. "Interesting," it murmured. "The human is more resourceful than anticipated. But no matter. They won't last long." The figure pressed a button, and a row of more advanced assassins powered up, their red eyes illuminating the dark room. "Prepare the next wave." Back on Earth, Jake and Daxee stood together on the porch, readying themselves for the battles ahead. Despite the odds, they shared a small, determined smile. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The story ends with a sense of triumph and resilience, but also a hint of the challenges yet to come, leaving the door open for future adventures. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories.